Do you like to go fast? Well, today's Dungeoneering update is for you. Introducing Dungeoneering Speed High Scores. Also, new achievements and titles have been added in-game for speedrunning Dungeoneering. But that's not all. We're going to jump into the update, check out what's new, but before we start, there is an update on the player avatar rework where they need a little bit more time to cook with it. So, the graphical renderer update, which improves lighting, shadow, and texture quality in a lot of existing armor, this update's being pushed back a week. Alongside that change, the player avatar rework is also being pushed back a week. So new dates are the 26th of May and the 8th of June for these two updates. And this is fine. I mean, if they need a little bit more time to fix all the bugs with it, then that's just good that they're taking their time that they need. They go on to say that they're very happy with how the beta for the player avatar worked out. A lot of positive feedback was sent in. They say they've improved the chat head when talking to NPCs, so not the one on your character when you're moving around, but the one you see when you're talking to people. They've improved that. They've improved on hairstyles based on feedback. They have fixed body proportions along with some face changes to the female avatar. They were also getting feedback that a lot of color vibrancy was gone in the beta that they are now working to restore and improve for the full release, saying that a lot of things looked washed out. So all good stuff. Thank you to all of you guys for jumping in, giving them feedback about these things. They also have an important note that some of you may be familiar with the photo booth in-game that is used to take pictures of your avatar for the website. This will be temporarily disabled when the update goes live so that they can fix that once it's gone in. They can test it live in game, make sure there's no bugs with it and all that. They say the photo booth will return in the future, but recommend if you want to change something with your avatar for the website that you do it now before the update, because they don't have a release date for the reintroduction of it yet. There's also some technical information about why they're pushing back the update. I'm going to go through that, but if you want to just get straight to the Dungeoneering stuff, I'll leave timecodes in the video so you can skip to that. So they say that the original vision of the avatar change was that they were going to remove a lot of the customization options that they were not overhauling. But they've learned through the road to restoration and through feedback that a lot of people would like to preserve some of these, even if it doesn't necessarily mean they're updating them, that you keep them as options at least. And so they've decided to include a legacy wardrobe category in the wardrobe interface. They say that while they're not remastering these options yet, the work to make them function with the new player avatar has been significant enough that they want to push the avatar update back a little bit. And that is a sign that they are going to make them work. So that's great news. So they say there isn't just content visual bugs, there's also some engine bugs, and they're going to get into that. These are fundamentally important for them to fix because they could crumble the foundations, you know. It's very important to get the engine stuff right. As a side product of that, it is harder to fix engine bugs as well because it's more deeply rooted into the systems. In particularly for the graphical renderer update, they want to make sure that everything is stable and running smoothly as possible at least, not having any massive game-breaking glitches, bugs, and crashes when it launches. One particular bug that stood out in the player avatar beta that they noticed is actually connected to the engine problems. They say since the new avatar is made from the ground up, some proportions of the player avatar have been changed ever so slightly. And these changes mean that they've now pushed the limits of the engine closer to the actual limit and actually even overseeding the limit. And they say this has led to something called a short overflow. To my understanding, what this means is that since the player avatar might be slightly taller now, it means that some items might actually sit taller on the player character as well. And there is a certain height limit of how high the player avatar can be. Imagine an invisible box around your character. And because they have some tall items that are now going slightly too high, they're hitting that cap, the invisible box around your character, which leads to this kind of melting effect, which some people might have seen in the avatar beta. Effectively means that the graphics are too tall and they're hitting a limit, basically, which is now dragging the thing down and looking like a waterfall or like it's melting. They say that if they were to just shrink the player avatar, it would mean reworking all the proportions and needing to shrink a whole bunch of other things to make everything fit in. So instead, they've decided to take on this problem at a more core fundamental level and addressing these limitations on the code instead. Basically, they're going into the engine to fix it rather than working around the limitation. And the good news is they have a fix for this that they're doing final checks on, and it should be ready to release next Tuesday. So yeah, if anyone was wondering why some graphics were looking like this, now you know why. They've explained it here. They've also taken this extra time to fix some color issues. As you can see, these two outfits are the exact same with the exact same color, but the existing one and the new player avatar ones, you can see the color is very different because it's a lot more faded in the new avatar one. So they're looking to fix that and bring the colors back again for the new avatar rework. And then a final note about the player avatar. They say that the launch of this update is just the first step of the project, because part of the feedback they got was that it would be nice if more than just the player character was updated. Think NPCs that are human around the game. There's also been feedback about looking younger or older, so I guess having some facial features like that, tattoos and body art, different scars, universal hairstyles for both male and female, and yeah, just generally consistency between the human characters in the game all looking the same. They don't know when the next part of the player avatar update will go live yet, but they do say that it's in their plans now to do that, so that's fantastic to hear. They're taking all that above feedback on board, and will include that in the next part of the update. Player avatar aside, Mod Anvil and Mod Ryan are sitting down later this week to talk about the next behind the scenes video they're recording. If you have any questions for the lead designer of RuneScape, you can add those into the feedback thread on social media now on Reddit. Now on to Dungeoneering. So what has been added to Dungeoneering this week? The featured update is speedrunning support. So when you do a dungeon now, well, since forever, there has been a timer on your dungeon floor. These times are now being tracked on the website highscores, as well as a whole plethora of achievements being available in-game and titles connected to them. Alongside this, there has been some XP modifications to Dungeoneering that we have to go into. They've observed that Dungeoneering experience rates are better when you simply focus on getting to the boss as fast as possible and then going to the next dungeon without really exploring anything in the dungeon. But they say that the overwhelming majority of players doing Dungeoneering are actually doing full clears of the floor. And they say that they're very happy about this because that's how they want people to engage with Dungeoneering. So effectively what they've done is they've reduced the amount of experience you get for rushing to the boss. So really, if you were clearing the entire dungeon before, there's no change this week at all to experience. You'll still be getting the same experience as before, but if you see people complaining about experience reductions, it's the people rushing bosses because they were getting far more experience than you were before the update. Last week, with the release of the Warped Stone to Warped Floors as well, you actually had to tag the boss to be eligible for the drop. So you might have been missing out on Warped Stones, but they've changed that now, so you only have to be in the same dungeon for a chance at the Warped Stone when the boss is killed. Yeah, so here they say they've redistributed the experience, so they haven't nerfed anything, but they've moved the XP sources over to bonus rooms rather than simply completing the floor. This is to make bonus rooms feel more relevant. Whereas if you were only doing like 1/3 of the floor, finding the boss and killing it, you will see a reduction in your experience now. And of course, as always, they're monitoring these changes to see how it goes down. In terms of Jagex moderator comments this week, there has been feedback about the walls sinking in Dungeoneering. There's no pictures provided here, but sometimes if you've done Dungeoneering, you might notice that a whole section of wall on one side is sinking into the floor. Essentially, it's a lot lower than it should be. Mod Anvil says that he even reported this bug before joining Jagex when he was playing Dungeoneering himself. They asked Mod Zena about it, and essentially they found out it's a really finicky bug connected to the engine that is causing this. So finicky, in fact, that it would take an engineer a couple weeks worth of their time simply focusing entirely on this to fix it. Not something easy to tweak. They do really want to solve it though, and hopefully at some point they will. Some players would also be interested in reading a blog about why this is happening, so maybe that's something that they could write up, even if they can't necessarily fix the bug right away. So with the featured update this week, Dungeoneering Speedrunning, we've got a whole bunch of new titles to unlock. They say that optimizing Dungeoneering floors has been a passion for many players for a long time, and you can now officially show off those achievements through in-game methods. Today's launch releases Dungeoneering speedrunning systems that allow players to complete large dungeon floors on high complexity while opening all bonus rooms as quickly as possible. The achievements are tied to either doing this solo or doing it with a group of 5 players. There are no in-game achievements for 2, 3, or 4 players, but there are high scores for it on the website. So if you're just going for high scores, you can do it with however many people you want, but the achievements in game are tied to 1 person or 5 people. Specifically, a 1-to-1 solo ratio or a 5-to-5 ratio. So you can make the dungeon easier by doing 5-1, where the dungeon has 5 people, but it scales to a 1-person difficulty. You have to do 5 people with 5 difficulty if you want the speedrunning time to be official and count for the achievements as well. If you would like to check out the Dungeoneering high scores on the website, you can hover over community and then go down to Dungeoneering high scores. Here it has its own section. Here you will be able to see the requirements to participate in these, as well as a drop down for solo, 2, 3, 4, and 5 players. You can also search for your name here or someone else. You can see that at the moment the solo time for a large fully explored dungeon is 5 minutes and 45 seconds by Dan, which is incredible. That's so fast. I want to say it's around 8-9 hours since the update went live, and there's around 1,000 players who have registered times for the solo high scores. Congratulations, Veiliseri, for having a 1 hour and 20 minute solo floor. You are officially the slowest person at the moment. The fastest 5-person large dungeon fully cleared is currently at 1 minute and 55 seconds, which is mind-blowingly fast. By Joris, Dan, DG Update, Jerry, and Y. The slowest 5-person large time at the moment is 16 minutes, with only 223 teams having gone in and tried this out. I'm sure the numbers will grow though as time goes on, so yeah, if this is something you're interested in, go jump into Dungeoneering. The times to beat are 12 minutes solo for bronze, or 6 minutes in a group of 5. For silver times, you need 8 minutes alone, or 4 minutes with a group. And for gold times, you need 6 minutes and 15 seconds, or a time of 2 minutes and 30 seconds for a group of 5. Now, I am more of a relaxed, casual Dungeoneering enjoyer myself. I think this meme represents my experience with Dungeoneering quite well, where I'm just vibing, and then you've got the people speedrunning who are trying very, very hard. And hey, that's how I like Dungeoneering. That's how I'm going to continue doing Dungeoneering. I gave it a bash. I got 16 minutes, 49 seconds. I'm in the top 500 at the moment. I'm surely going to get pushed lower than that, but I don't even feel close to bronze time, so I don't think I'm going to bother much with this update. It feels far too difficult for me, but compared to Thieving Heist speedrunning, which actually had a doable time, or I actually did get the achievement, this feels completely out of reach to me. Here are the various achievement titles that you can get for doing the times both solo and in group. We got Frozen, Abandoned, Furnished, Desolate, Occult, Warped, and Dungeon Master for doing all of them. Those are the solo ones, and for groups of 5 you got Plane Freezer, Ramaki, Night Gazer, Shadow Forger, Flesh Spoiler, World Gorger, and Floor Gazer. These are all titles you can have next to your name in game. Additionally, if you've got the Ferret Pet out following you, you can examine that to get some speedrunning stats for the player owning the ferret. Alongside the Dungeoneering update last week, we also got a marketplace update featuring the occult floor of Dungeoneering having new cosmetics, as well as a new blog featuring the new cosmetics being added to the marketplace. I think the occult animations are fantastic, they look very cool, but I'm biased because I like purple so much. You can pick up a basic attack for necromancy, occult dead shot animation, an occult dive animation, an occult escape animation, an occult finger of death animation, occult living death animation. They got an occult surge. There is an occult loot beam for rare drops you find. Occult omni power for magic users. Occult overpower for melee users. Occult death skulls for necromancy enjoyers. An occult teleport animation coming in both short version for quick teleports and longer version for longer teleports. Occult touch of death for necromancy. And finally, the occult trail, which is oddly out of place from all the other ones. It's grey. Why is it not purple compared to all the other ones? It's very strange. A lot of people didn't like the occult trail as well last week, and there was a lot of feedback saying, please change it so that it actually fits the rest of the cosmetics. And so this week they have updated it to look like this. It looks far more noticeable now. You can actually see it. Before you couldn't even see the trail when standing still. Now it's very visible. Features a very smoky purple orb inside of you with smoke coming out of it. It kind of looks like fire almost. And then the tiny occult symbols as well floating out of you. Very glad they went back and fixed that because it looked really bad on release. Though it might look a little bit too intense now, but I'm happy that they changed it at least. You can also get a dark version of Celestial robes, as well as various different Dungeoneering armor in the marketplace as well. The Equinox armor is also returning to the marketplace, and a whole range of Seren crystal items have been released this week, so go on and check that out if you want to pick up some new cosmetics. Notably, if you're an old school player, the Blade of Saildor is actually one of the items you can pick up as an override, coming in both main hand and offhand versions, so you can dual wield the blade if you have it. On the topic of Surge, Dive, and Escape as well, for animation overrides, there was some feedback about people not being happy with the change they did initially. Mod Pigeon has said that they have made some changes to it, but it hasn't gone live yet, so hopefully within the next few weeks we'll see that update get released. Recently, there's been a lot of discussion about the giant mole in RuneScape, and there was a very popular suggestion about removing all the tunnels for the giant mole room, just having a giant room where the mole can burrow around in and you just follow it around. But one player decided, you know what? I don't think this is the right direction. I think we should go the opposite direction. Add 3 more rooms with the mole fight, where it can burrow all over the place, connect all 4 of these rooms, make the boss fight 4 times longer. Massive support for this, 96% upvotes, but it doesn't stop there. Another player decided, let's not connect the tunnels, let's have each of the 4 tunnels have separate entrances around Falador, so you have to leave the tunnel, go to a different section of Falador, enter a tunnel again, fight it there. One person was like, no, let's add the Barrows tunnels into the giant mole fight. You now have to go through the Barrows tunnels to find the mole as well. And they were like, no, hold my glass, I've got a better idea. Let's place the underground pass underneath Falador. You now have underground pass agility checks for finding the giant mole. And someone was like, no. Put the giant mole inside Sliske's endgame maze. And Jagex have finally responded to all these suggestions, so what are they planning to do? We have moved all available J mods that are not focusing on the player avatar rework to focus on reworking the giant mole encounter instead. While main feedback was centered around the large boss area, we feel like such a change is unnecessary. However, we would like to introduce you to Micro Mole. They've decided to shrink the giant mole and make her 10 times smaller. She now burrows 3 times faster and takes significantly longer to dig to another side of the tunnel. So, you get to wait around, maybe sip some tea while you're waiting for the mole to pop up again. The Micro Mole also summons mini moles, and these have been shrunk 10 times as well, along with their click boxes. They're no longer affected by AoE attacks either, so you have to click on them individually. I mean, if you could just hurricane them down, that would trivialize the challenge. They've also increased their health by 4 times. There are now barrels that will randomly spawn and despawn around the tunnels to block off certain pathways, meaning there's only one right option to get to the mole. They want to do this to ensure players use as much run energy as possible before engaging with the Micro Mole again, and to make sure nobody exploits the barrels during this change. You will now lose run energy just by standing still inside of the mole room. Surge, Escape, and Dive have been disabled during the entire fight. The Micro Mole's Rockfall attack will now be triggered in every single part of the entire arena, and you can't avoid it or cancel it by using abilities. You also have to complete the quest One Small Favor to fight Micro Mole. And then in extremely tiny text here, we've got none of these changes are actually planned or will go live. So they're just trolling us, man. Jagex just wanted to be part of the memes. It's too funny. Alright, here are the actual hotfixes for this week. Runes can now be bound again in Dungeoneering. There was a problem where the choppable flowers in Dungeoneering would continue to change colors even if you finished the room. Sometimes you hear a click and the nearby door opens, wasn't being activated on certain rooms, that's been fixed. Some achievements weren't ticking off properly, those have been fixed, like key improvements for example. The colored ferret room in Abandoned Floor 2 theme wasn't possible to complete. Resetting the Necromancy Ring of Kinship upgrades now again refunds tokens, it wasn't doing that. And in the situation where a colored ferret wasn't able to reach the pressure platform it was supposed to go to, after a certain amount of times, it will now dig down and pop up where the pressure plate is, so it will activate the room's completion. There was a bug where enemies in dungeons were spawning at a lower level than they were supposed to, but that's been fixed now. And they talk a little bit about XP redistribution in dungeons. So on the topic of them saying boss rushing was faster, they want to encourage people complete the entire dungeon rather than skipping most of it. They say most people play like this anyway at the moment still, but there are people who were rushing dungeons getting far more experience than they were supposed to. They have modified some experience. For doing small floors now, you will no longer get a size modifier, it's been reduced to 0, but the bonus rooms now give 40% more experience, and creatures killed during the dungeon is staying the same. So there's been a slight reduction in doing small floors. So the XP modifier has been decreased by 10% for small floors. For medium floors, we see a reduction of 100 on size modifier, but bonus rooms now give an additional plus 90, and defeating creatures in the dungeon gives a plus 10 now. So all medium experience has been moved from size modifier down to bonus rooms and creatures killed. For large floors, we see a size modifier of minus 350. For bonus rooms, there's a increase of 340. And for creatures killed, there's a plus 20%. So defeating all creatures and doing all the bonus rooms in large dungeons will now give you 10% more experience for doing the dungeon. Now, I don't think most people killed every single creature in the dungeon. When I'm doing dungeons, I tend to skip monsters if there's not a guardian door, so I probably wouldn't see those extra 20%, but I probably would get like 10% because I probably do defeat half of the monsters in the dungeon. So to me, it would be the same as before in that case. In saying that too, I did run a couple floors just to check out the experience rates and ignore the times. I wasn't trying to go fast or anything, but large floor with full bonus room clearage, I got about 5% of the creatures killed on that one. This was for a furnished floor, I believe. This was a warped floor. Here you get more experience, of course. This one I did get a 10% of the creature kill bonus. I then ran an occult as well, and for this one I only got 1% of the creatures killed, so that one was very low compared to the others. Now this is solo large floors. This is me doing it by myself. I imagine I'd be looking at around 1.2 million experience an hour in Dungeoneering when doing it solo. You can do it a lot faster with a group, of course, and by yourself even as well. I'm not doing them very fast here. I mean, you can just go as far as the Dungeoneering high scores to see how fast some people are doing these floors. So the thing with Dungeoneering is you can get okay experience for doing it solo, but you can get the best experience for doing it in a team. So it is highly recommended to do Dungeoneering with a group of people. I'd say you could easily get into the multiple millions of experience an hour if you're doing it with a group. So once again, I want to say that if you were doing boss rushes before, your experience for doing boss rushes is now lower, but if you are doing full clears of dungeons, you would not notice a difference with this week's update, other than creatures being slightly stronger now because there was a bug connected to the level there. There was also a bug with the Scroll of Restoration where it was saving more materials for archaeology than it was supposed to. Soul runes in Dungeoneering were using the wrong inventory icon. Fremennik sagas now use the new dungeon visuals that were added last week for Dungeoneering. This includes new textures and lighting for the Dungeoneering floors. The area around Zamarigal's fortress in cutscenes now matches the overworld. I guess those were quest related. There are some tiles in the ice rooms that would still make you slide when they weren't supposed to. There were some broken animations with Astea Frostweb and some puzzle ghost rooms. A Fremennik puzzle room where you needed to cook some fish wasn't possible to complete. That's been fixed. The Edemu pet now shows kill count once again. As I said before, warp stones will now drop for all party members in a dungeon, even if they haven't damaged the boss. And the new Dungeoneering lighting and textures have been added to a whole bunch of other dungeons in the game. All of them, of course, Dungeoneering themed, like the ones in the Clockwork Syringe quest, Salt in the Wound quest, Plague's End quest, One of a Kind quest, Curse of the Black Stone quest, Remains of the Necrolord quest, as well as some resource dungeons like the Garajo Hordestalker dungeon in Prifddinas, the Zamorak hideout area also connected to the Stalker dungeon, and of course the Flesh Hatcher Makerna's resource dungeon. Makerna's. Accuracy bonus has been added to the Dungeoneering Blood Shard necklaces. The models for Chaotic Rapier, Chaotic Maul, and Chaotic Crossbow has been updated this week. Last week the Chaotic Staff was updated with a new material texture so it looks metal and shiny. This has been added to the Chaotic Rapier, main and offhand I suppose, the Chaotic Maul, as well as the Chaotic Crossbows. So they now use the same model as the Ruinous weapons do, but just with the Chaotic color scheme. Herblore Skill Guide wasn't giving the right ingredients for the new Dungeoneering potions, that's been fixed. And there was a bug where if you had a scripture active when you entered a dungeon and you disconnected from the game, I believe it deleted all the charges in your scripture. That's been fixed now, so that's good. Various client crashing bugs have been fixed. Cops and Robbers achievement can now be completed by Ironman players. You can once again attack over fences in Lumbridge by the cows and the chickens, and some hidey holes went missing in Lumbridge around February, but those have been added back again now. Might want to go check and see if your items are still in there. On top of that, RuneScape has released a new comic book called Untold Tales of the God Wars. I believe it's a re-release, but it's now a 4 comic book collection that's being sold. It dives into the Temple of Lost Ancients, also known as the God Wars dungeon, during the age when the God Wars dungeon was going on, and you follow this skull guy, who I guess is the main character. Can learn a little bit more about the lore around the God Wars dungeon if you would like that. Can pick it up at various different book retailers or online if you want to check that out. It also includes a code for the pet of the skull head in-game. And community artwork for the past 2 weeks, since I didn't cover this last week. M with Z created a map of Acheron, which is a frosty continent to the north of the wilderness, but it's not in-game in either RuneScape or Old School yet. This is what that player envisions it could look like. Cool places like the Sky Tree, Luna's Glade, Forsaken Lighthouse, and Odious Bones made a anime version of Anya from the New Havenheith Quest series. Legend Arts is also back with a fantastic piece of artwork of the God Wars, where a person in 3rd Age is fighting an orc army. Very cool depiction, I like that a lot. And RSN Miss Caitlin has created a rune-themed wax burner. Almost looks like the entire thing is handmade. I really like it, it's very cute. It looks way cooler than mine. Awesome creations for all the artists featured. Very cool, guys. So because experience for Dungeoneering has been redistributed this week, all the people who liked boss rushing are not happy about it. This is why we've got a 59% upvote. It's not very popular, but it's also not unpopular. It's very mixed in the middle. Top comment being, they're very scared how a 5-man team completed a large dungeon, fully explored in 2 minutes and 8 seconds. It seems insane to me too, but there are videos of it on YouTube and Twitch, so, you know, some people are just built different, I suppose. Sad to see no mention of the warped stone cost this week. People are currently upset that it takes 2 warped stones to make a set of dual wield items, whereas it only takes 1 warped stone to make a 2-hand item. Realistically, for consistency reasons, you'd think that a warped stone would require 2 for 2-hand and then 1 for each offhand, right? That would be consistent to me. Honestly, I imagine if they ever were to change something, they would just require 2 hands to use 2 stones, so it might be an idea to get a 2-hand or 2, you know, before that possible change, though nothing's been confirmed yet, it's just assumptions. Though it's also the thing that offhand weapons aren't necessarily that strong. Main hand weapons do 150% of the damage. Offhand items are generally quite weak and can be swapped out with other ones. So you don't necessarily even need a ruinous offhand, but you know, if you want them to match, then you would probably want that. So it's more of an like aesthetic thing. I get why people would want to, and I don't think the current system is great. Modluma says that they're looking to update the Celestial Catalytic Staff in Dungeoneering. Currently Chaotic looks like this, the Ruinous one looks like that, and then the Celestial Catalytic one didn't get an update with the remaster, but they would like it to look something like this, which I agree with. It looks a lot more shiny there. Just needs a coat of color and some shiny metal paint, and you're good to go. A lot of people seem to like that suggestion as well. Looking forward to Micro Mole Extreme Difficulty. There doesn't seem to have been any mention of glowing icons on the map for keys you have as well. They were looking into change the way the keys work on the Dungeoneering map, where they would glow if you had them collected. I think that would be a really cool change personally. It is also important to know that while Boss Rush has been nerfed this week, experience is still significantly better now than it was before the remaster. So even if it is a little bit slower now, it is still a lot better than it was before. I personally like the change of having to explore the entire dungeon, but I know it's not what everyone wants to do when doing Dungeoneering, so I can understand why some people aren't happy with the changes. 12-minute large floor for bronze title, I can safely say I will never happen to me. That alone has killed my motivation to even try for any of these speedruns. I basically agree with this guy. My fastest time was like 16 something, and I'm like, I don't think it's gonna get much faster than that. I do agree with this person saying that they want a refund for the occult trail. It does look very different than what was sold now. And it also is more pink and blobby rather than what the occult trails look like, where they're quite a lot darker with a little bit of red and gray inside of them. Other than the symbols that float around you, it doesn't really look like the other occult overrides. I picked it up too because, you know, I like purple a lot, and this is what it looks like now. You just walk with it like, it's just a big blob of purple inside of you, really, with the symbols of the occult flowing out of you. Turn off all the other particles as well. This is the one it looks like. If you run, it adds a bit more trail behind you, so you get a close look of it, what it actually looks like. But if I do a quick surge here, so you can see what the surge animation for Occult looks like, this is what that is. You can see it's a lot darker. It has like a more of a black outline to it with purple inside of it. There isn't really any darkness to the Occult aura. So it doesn't have quite the same style. I don't think they're quite there yet. There is some darkness around it, but it's very faint. And you can see that in like the trail here too. I'm not quite sure why the aura is so different from the surge and the dive, for example. I'm more happy with how it is now than last week, but it still isn't quite the same as the rest of the Occult animations. One person says, "Why do we need a load of speed-based achievements in addition to high scores? This kind of group thing gets very toxic fast. Not to mention the times themselves are pretty wild and RNG on floor layouts. Can't see it being great for non-max teams without best in thought everything either." Personally, I have zero interest in the speedrunning thing myself. I know there's a very niche community of people that really enjoy speedrunning Dungeoneering, but I mean, I don't think this is something for most players to really care about. Maybe it'll get more people into speedrunning Dungeoneering. That would be great, you know, increase the fan base of that community. But I do think the times are far too difficult at the moment too. This Dungeoneering enthusiast says that the times are very achievable. I would disagree with that. The gold times are there for players who are willing to learn how to complete floors as fast as possible. The bronze and silver times are achievable by players who put in the effort to learn. In a lot of speedrunning scenarios that I've participated in, it's generally doable to get the worst possible time, like bronze for example, by just doing something well. I think you have to be mildly exceptional to get the bronze time for Dungeoneering, and you have to be extremely exceptional to get the gold time. Like I say, I can't see myself even getting bronze, so I'm not even going to bother trying because, like, what's the point? Why are there a dozen frost dragons in every large dungeon or floor now? Seems like it's 200 times more common than they were. I think it's because last week people were complaining there were no frost dragons in dungeons, and now they've upped the quantity. The pendulum swings both ways. While I agree that Occult Trail needed some adjustments, I think the change missed the mark. It's far more flashy than the corresponding theme trails, and the Occult theme colors tend to be darker than the trail as well. And I agree with that. It is very bright now compared to what all the other Occult animations are. Today's Dungeoneering changes are a step in the wrong direction, some people are saying. Ran a lot of numbers here, and I think they've just been doing napkin math because some of the things don't really add up, but 66% of people agree with them, so clearly opinions are very divided here. I recognize QP, they've done some Dungeoneering speedrunning guides on YouTube, and when they say, "Where are you getting these numbers from?" they seem made up, then I trust this person. His numbers are exaggerated. The QP says that pre-nerf, as a top-end player, I could do a solo floor in about 3 minutes. That's wild. Post-nerf, the same floor will take me closer to 8 minutes on average, opening the majority of bonus rooms to get the same experience. I can almost guarantee you the average players are not going to see their completion times more than double with the update, so it does bring the XP an hour closer between casual and pro players. Yeah, because essentially pro players now need to do more to get the same experience they were getting before. Casual players are getting the same experience they were before. They also say it's worth noting that floor experience is still extremely high. Floors give almost twice as much XP as they did before the remaster. Previously, the only way to sustain rates like this was to have wild cards, and these took roughly 3 to 5 floors to obtain per set at level 120. So then you'd get one boosted floor every 3 to 5 floors. New says they were doing 8 to 10 minute boss rush floors solo before. Now they're doing 16 to 18 minute full clears. They say with the rooms being sped up, they can probably get it down to 15 minutes. Here they say for 5-man floors, top-end players could average 2 minutes 20 pre-update. And that's closer to 3 to 3.5 now for full clears with the full team. So it's a significant nerf, I mean 33%, yeah. But it's not going to be a big change for casual teams. The thing with Dungeoneering is that experience rates vary so wildly between how fast you can do the dungeons. If you're really good at doing dungeons, you're going to get a lot of experience. If you're slower, you're going to get less experience. And there's so much you can do to speed up a dungeon, like small things here and there, placing the gate stones in specific spots. You know, there's a lot of strategy behind it that I don't have, but these speedrunners do. And so that's why they can get very good rates. I'm not convinced that a lot of casual players were doing boss rushes. And if they were, they weren't doing it to the level of proficiency that some of these people complaining are. The amount of people acting like the whole has become the obvious choice for training because top-end rates went from 5 mil to 3.5 million an hour, when before it was 4 million with cards and 1 million without, is ridiculous. Dungeoneering is still extremely fast and extremely generous. You still get 3 times the experience and 6 times the tokens with the remaster. It's all just faster and easier because of all the quality of life changes as well. So that Dungeoneering update has not been ruined because of this change. Some people are just really upset that the experience rates have gotten crunched a little bit down because they were a little bit too strong before. Or at least stronger than Jagex wanted them to be, I should say. But like I say, experience is down to how fast you can do dungeons. You got this guy right here, the XP wasn't even that good to begin with. Dungeoneering is one of the fastest skills you can train in the game, if you do it well. And so varying people will have wildly different experiences because if you do a dungeon poorly, you're going to get less experience. Is the goal here to increase the experience for solo players? If it is, then maybe you should give them a modifier for doing a dungeon solo, like increase their experience a little bit to make up for the fact that they don't have 11 gate stones to run around the large dungeon with. You know, when Dungeoneering released, large floors were seen as like not efficient to do by solo players because they just took so long to do. You didn't have all the quality of life, the extra gate stones and stuff like you have now. And in a lot of cases, people said if you were going to do Dungeoneering, do it with a team or don't bother doing it at all, because it was just so slow to do without a team back then. It is actually viable to do now and get okay rates with, but it's of course better to do with a team. So if there's a lot of push for it, maybe Jagex will decide to increase the experience rate for solo players. You know, if there's enough feedback. Engineering was playable for a week and now it's waiting a rework in 5 to 10 years. How is 2 million XP an hour for average playing bad? Like I say, varies wildly between people. How about you just get good at Dungeoneering? This person here gets it. The change just means I'm better off rushing to open every single door now and solving every puzzle rather than skipping it all and rushing to the boss. I like it. I hate it as a speedrunner, but I like it. The idea now is that you need to complete the entire dungeon as fast as possible, not just find the boss as fast as possible. That is the change this week. And that is what Jagex wanted the update to be like too. That's what they said in the blog post initially and last week when they added the remaster. They wanted people to explore the entire dungeon. And people weren't doing that. They were just going to the boss, they were getting massive amounts of experience. The complaint last week from a lot of people was that you guys wanted people to explore the dungeon, but people can still just skip the dungeon and get massive amounts of experience. So you didn't actually do what the update was aimed to do. And so now they've changed it to explore the whole dungeon as fast as possible. And now people are upset that they've done what they initially set out to do. Sometimes you can't please everyone. I think that's what the takeaway here is. Should solo rates be boosted? Maybe. I'm not saying no. I'm just saying maybe they should be boosted. I don't have the answer. It is harder to do a large floor as a solo player than it is to do as a team. Rushing floors being the best XP was not intended, and even post-nerf the rates are much higher than they were before. Stop throwing a fit every time Jagex properly rebalances things that are broken. I guess we have to complete full floors again now. Didn't you have to do... what? Hasn't it always been faster to do boss rushes even before the remaster? Wow, it's almost like a game has balance updates done to it. It might be unpopular, but I agree with Banks on this one. People will either complain that they take too long to rebalance something, or that they do it too fast. There's never pleasing everyone. I think it's good that they're rebalancing things that they think are overpowered. They're reacting fast to it, they're making changes. Like they say, people are just expecting things to never get nerfed. In a perfect world, everything would just work, you know? Everything would just be great all the time, but this isn't a perfect world, and rebalancing things is necessary. The alternative is that they don't nerf things for an extremely long time, like for Zamorak. Then when they do, people still complain that it took too long to nerf something. In this case, they nerfed a method that was clearly a flaw in the design that they didn't want to have in the game, and then they readjusted the experience into the bonus rooms to compensate for that. They upped the modifier to do bonus rooms. This is exactly what they should have done. There's been a suggestion to move the Dungeoneering speedrunning achievements from the skill tab into the feats tab. I 100% agree with this because I'm never going to have 100% completion on skills again at this point. Definitely agree, competitive things shouldn't be part of skills. It's always been about grinding out the skill achievements, so it's weird now that everyone has it incomplete because speedrunning is just slapped in the middle there. A large support for this too, 94% upvote. Just saw this, I can't believe the speed they're asking. How the Can I 100% full clear a large floor in 2 minutes and 30 seconds? The gold achievement is basically Grandmaster Combat achievement level of difficulty. These are insane for what skill achievements normally require. Sad to see my skills achievement tab unfinished now. Split it into thieving and dungeoneering as well. Speedrunning heists is also part of speedrunning. Yeah, heist speedruns are actually really easy and doable. With a little bit of practice and getting the timing down, you can get those relatively fast. The dungeoneering ones are S plus tier difficulty. I was about to make a snide comment about maxers and compers moaning about things as usual, but then I saw what the times actually were for speedrunning achievements. They're masochistic. 100% agree that the speedrunning things should have a tab in feats instead of in skills. We've also got people enjoying the new mole changes. 94% like this mole change. Road to Restoration win once again. The holy moly, what a buff. This humor and awareness is what makes the game feel RuneScape. Peak RuneScape humor. Can one small favor be updated so you can't teleport with the items? I can get down with a little bit of whimsy. You can't shrink the giant mole by 10 times and call it a micro mole. That's just a normal mole. True, it's now the mole fight. Straight up beefing with a regular ass mole now. The calendar has also got a preview for us on the 1st of June. Secrets of Amberfell, a new quest, is being released. Continue your journey into Havenheith by helping to reconnect the settlements of Wendelwick and Amberfell. Mudstrike also confirms that this update will include a map expansion, the village of Amberfell, and the exterior of an upcoming dig site. So very exciting stuff. People are looking forward to it, very excited, can't wait. Haven hype. Frickin' love Havenheith and can't wait to play the new quest. Why are there so many falls and fells? Ashenfall, Gornfell, Fell Hollow, Amberfell. Fiery001 has officially unlocked the Golden Dungeoneering Master title, which is getting all large solo floors in 6 minutes 15 seconds or less. Absolute mad lad, congratulations Fiery. Took them less than 6 hours, what a crazy fella. 6 hours and probably 10 years of dungeoneering. Are the new dungeoneering speedrunning times hard or am I just bad? No, they're hard, dude. They're hard. I don't think these times are something most people can achieve, let alone doing it on day one. Peek at the high scores, only 7, well, this was only a couple hours after the update, but only 7 people had managed to get the solo time so far. RuneScape speedrunning requirements across the board are ridiculous, I don't even bother anymore. 6 minutes is going to be tough without a lot of practice. Think of it like Grandmaster timers, but for dungeoneering. QP has some tips though if you are interested in looking into this. If you open doors randomly, you will run out of gate stones and end up rerunning rooms, adding significant time to the floors. Make sure to use all 4 movement abilities: Surge, Dive, Barge, and Escape. You can quickly move from door to door with Escape. Practice this a lot. Use area loot to pick up keys. Even include keybinds for area loot. Keep moving while you clear guardian doors. This way you can be at the door when you've cleared the room. They could go on, but this is a good starting point. Keep in mind, even if you're just 3 ticks slower per room than a super fast dungeoneer, over 60 rooms, that is still an extra 2 minutes of your floor time. Very important to focus on precise actions for solos. Group timers focus a lot more on player distribution to get fastest times. As for weapons, they say that they swap to melee weapons for extra escape range. Hex or Sagittarian shortbow is fine for most escapes. They also say for identifying the critical path to the boss, skill doors will be within 10 levels of your current level. So say you have 99, the skill doors will be from 90 to 99, for example. Anything outside of that range is guaranteed to be a bonus room. You can examine the door to see the level requirement. Resources in rooms should also be within that 10 level range, so if you're seeing things like Prometheum with 99, you're most likely on the critical path. I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert at identifying this, but that's the general idea. I wasn't expecting Grandmaster level dungeon achievements. And that's a wrap for this week. Do like the video and subscribe if you would like to see more RuneScape content. Good luck if you go for these dungeoneering speedrun times, you're gonna need it, and I'll catch you in another video.